All right, welcome everybody. This is the May 2022 version of Civil Chat. With me as always, is Mr. Brian Mackey, and we're going to be talking about all things civil with related to Autodesk software. If you haven't joined us before, welcome. This is your chance to ask questions, and we will do our best to answer those questions. I guarantee I will have an answer. You just might not like the answer because it might be, I don't know. You never know. So this webinar is all about answering your questions, which means you have to ask the questions. If you don't ask the questions, I don't have any questions to answer. And then Brian and I will just keep talking about the rain and the snow or whatever else we happen to want to talk about. So make sure you ask the questions, please.
And if you're going to ask those questions, please put them in the question and answer pod. And otherwise, the chat pod is there to heckle, correct Brian when he gives a stupid answer.
So it just makes life so much easier if you put your questions in the question and answer. That way we can manage them a little bit better. But yeah, absolutely, the chat is there for you. You can specify who the chat goes to, so you can have it send it to just us, or you can send it to everybody, or I think you can send it to a specific person. So if you're like, hey, I don't want to send this over to Joe, you can send it to Joe. Sorry about that, Joe. Now you're gonna get a lot of messages. With that being said, I always like to start off with a little tips or trick or something like that. And this is one that whenever I get a new install of AutoCAD, these are a few things that I always like to change. And it just makes my life a lot easier and simpler, and CAD just being a little bit less annoying. So let me go ahead and share my screen here.
And just so you guys do understand that he is giving you a little tip to start it off, so you can type in your question.
Yeah, gives you time to type in your questions. Exactly.
This is what's known in the industry as filling the gap.
Okay, so first thing I always like to change is the command line. So by default, your command line is floating, right? I don't know anybody that actually likes a floating command line, right? So if you just grab the dots, just anchor it, right? That's one thing I always like to do. Another thing that I like to change is the view cube. So I think the view cube comes in really, really handy when you're working in a 3D environment. If you're working in a 2D environment, it's just kind of annoying, right? So you could simply just turn off the view cube, but I like it on when I'm working in 3D, but not when I'm in 2D. So if you go into your options, so I'm just typing OP for options here. On the 3D modeling tab, I believe this is where it is. Yep. So the 3D modeling tab of your options, you can choose to display your view cube in the 2D wireframe visual style or all other visual styles. So I'm going to turn off the 2D wireframe visual style, select OK, and you can see the view cube has gone away. Now, if I decide, hey, I'm going to be working in 3D, most likely you're going to set a 3D visual style. And I'm not sure why this is not showing up here, but you should have these should be white. I don't know why they're not, but anyways, so I'm going to come up here to my in canvas view controls, and I'm going to click where it says 2D wireframe. I'm going to change that to, well, anything else. So I'll change it to conceptual. So I'm working now in a 3D environment, and you can see my view cube is now visible. If I change that back to a 2D wireframe, the view cube goes away.
So I have a question. If you shift orbit, so if you shift the middle mouse to orbit, does it bring the view cube up, or you're still in 2D wireframe? So
you're still in a 2D wireframe, so you're not going to see the view cube.
Got it.
You will see your UCS icon down here in the bottom left. All right, so that'll kind of give you an idea of where you're oriented in the real world, but you don't see the view cube. Yep. So that's another change that I like to make. Another one that I like is I'm constantly using the Alt tab to switch between programs, right? Or I like to click on the application down here to minimize it, and then click on it again to bring it back up. All right. I can't think of the name of it now. It's the, well, I just changed it. The system variable to change this is the tab. No, it's not tab. It's taskbar. That's the name of it, taskbar. So by default, the taskbar is turned on. All right, so if I mouse over my application icon down here, it's going to show me the drawings that I have open. Right, so I can say, oh, I want to switch over to this drawing here. Right. If I mouse over it again, I can switch back over to this drawing here. But the problem is when I do my Alt Tab, I have to cycle through all those drawings. If you have 4 or 5 drawings open, that just makes this like really annoying. So I like to change my taskbar to be a system variable of 0. And again, that way I can just click on the program icon, minimize it, maximize it. If I hit Alt Tab, it just shows up as Civil 3D and not each one of the drawings open here. So that's another system variable I like to change. Let me go ahead and switch over to this drawing here. Another one I like to change is, you've got all these layout tabs. So I've created a couple of layout tabs in here and I've just made them all look a little different. Right? And when you mouse over the tab for the drawing, you'll get this preview of all the model tab as well as all the layout tabs. And what I find to be really annoying, especially in some of these larger drawings, is as you mouse over it, it's going to actually change your drawing to display that tab. And I just find this to be extremely annoying. I dislike it. Now, some of you might like it, and that's fine. You can be weird if you want to, right? But if you don't like this, there's a system variable that you can change to so it doesn't do that anymore. And it is file tab thumb over. All right, so that's the name of the system variable, file tab thumb over. All right, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to set that to 0. Now, when I mouse over the tab, it still shows me all the layout tabs, but now as I mouse over them, it doesn't switch my drawing area to match it. I don't need my whole drawing area to change to see which one it is. This preview, is more than enough to get an idea of which tab I want to switch to. All right. Now, if you don't want the previews at all, there's also another system variable, and this is not one that I personally would change. It's the file tab preview. All right, so if I turn that one off, now when I mouse over it, I don't get the little preview. I still get a list, but I don't get the preview. Now, like I said, I probably wouldn't turn this one off. I kind of like the preview. I just don't like the switching as I'm mousing over them thing. I just find that to be so annoying. So again, that's file tab preview. Turn that back on.
The question I would have to that is if it's showing you the previews, would that be a speed thing because it's now got to make previews as that sheet changes? Would that be a speed performance type issue with it on or off?
For the file tab preview, no, it shouldn't be a speed issue because these are just thumbnails that are saved the last time you were in that tab. So it's just a little image that's saved when you switch off of that tab, and that's what it's displaying. All right. So this shouldn't make a difference. Now, that other one where it automatically changes your one, so that's the file tab thumb over. So if I turn that on, this one could be definitely a performance issue because it has to calculate the view to be able to just show it. So this one definitely could be a performance enhancing function.
And I'm following up with questions because again, we're looking for a list of questions in the question and answer pod. Right now, those questions are minimal. So yes. People came in after you had pointed it out. So please, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the question and answer pod.
Love Charlie's comment. Drones are cool. Surveys are expensive. I don't need a PLS anymore, right? No, you still need surveyors. Every project needs to have a surveyor. And the reason is it gives us somebody to sue.
Yep.
That's why you need a surveyor. But yeah, so those are some, and these are just basic AutoCAD stuff. This actually isn't even Civil 3D, but since Civil 3D is built on AutoCAD, I kind of think they're pretty cool. Yeah, so Jennifer says she agrees with file tab preview. Yeah, I don't, the thumb over thing, I don't like it. Other things that I like to change. So and again, this is just me babbling until we get some more questions. So a lot of times what happens is, I'm going to come over here to my properties, and my properties is anchored over here on the right-hand side, but I don't actually want to go to the properties. What I want to do is I want to hit one of those tools on the toolbar over here, one of my transparent commands. Now, what we oftentimes do when we're moving our mouse around, especially if it's on the far right screen. Now I've got my laptop screen is still further to my right. So if I move my mouse all the way to the right, it just moves on to the other screen. But if this was like the limit of my screen and I wanted to go grab one of these toolbar buttons, what would you do? Well, you would just move your mouse all the way to the right and then back just a smidge to get to that tool. And what happens if you move it all the way to the right? Well, your properties pops up. And then if you move it back to the left a smidge, then it's covering your toolbar. Like, oh, I got a mouse off of it. Wait for it to go away, and then I can go get it. Oh, I did it again. All right, let's try this again. Move really slow. Okay, I got it now. All right. Same thing over on the left-hand side. I want to go grab some. That one popped up. I really want to just go expand out my points here, but I went too far and I moused over that, and it's annoying. So what you can do here is if you've got tool palette or palettes anchored on the sides, what I prefer to do is I like to right-click on it and change it to icons only. And that way you still have them. They're just little small icons at the top. And you have to do this for both the left and the right. I'll change those both to icons only. And the nice thing about this is now I can mouse over that empty area and it doesn't pop up. I actually have to mouse over that little button before it pops out. So this is how I like to have my palette set up, because the whole mouse over thing, again, it annoys me.
So if you had 10 toolbars over there, you'd still be under the same situation because you'd have 10 mini icons.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you have all the icons that go all the way down to here, you might still be in that same situation, but I don't know anybody that does that. Okay.
So on all these tips you're showing, Corey brought up an interesting point that I was going to actually ask is he said they turned it off globally. How are these things applied to a setting for you to distribute or deploy your software that it's turned off or set up to your preferences for everybody?
So if I wanted to change this for everybody in my company, what I would do is I would add that to the ACAD doc.lisp or the ACAD.lisp. So every time you launch CAD, it runs the ACAD.lsp file. So it's a Lisp routine that runs every time you launch CAD. Every time you launch a drawing or open a drawing, it runs the ACAD doc.lisp. So you can add code into those that would then change those system variables. And that's what we do. So if I go open up the one that we distribute to all of our users, you can see we do this all the time. So let me go ahead and open up a Lisp routine here. Let's see, we'll go CAD support, common, Lisp, and here's the ACAD.lsp and the ACAD doc.lsp. I think the ACAD doc is the one that has the most stuff in it. Yeah, there we go. And so I would just add that into this Lisp routine, right? I would just come down to wherever I need it to be, and I would just do a set var, all right, set var user, and it would do it for me. You would just type in, just like you have here, set var, the name of the variable, and then the value you want that variable to be. So it'd be set var, file tab thumb over 0. And then as long as everybody's using this ACAD doc.lsp, every time they open up a drawing, it's going to change that back to 0.
So we do have some questions. So I think if you're done killing time.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I do have 2023 installed if anybody wants to talk about that as well. So go ahead.
All right. So Jennifer comes up with the first question. How often do you entertain a Civil 3D company-wide upgrade? Yearly, every 2 years, every decade, et cetera?
So that's a great question. In the past, we at GEI have done it every 2 years. So we had the 2016 and the 2018 and the 2020 and the 2022. We have just now decided to go yearly. And basically the idea is roll out these updates gradually to our users. So they're not inundated with, oh, wow, there's all these new changes. They're coming out gradually. And so they don't have to changes much each time they update, each time we upgrade, but the upgrades become more often. So that's kind of the approach that we're taking here at GEI. So I'm just now getting ready to start setting up the 2023 stuff. We're currently running off of 2022. I know a lot of companies do it every other year. There was a feeling back in the day that the odd number releases were the bad releases, and the even number releases were the good ones.
13.
Exactly, 13. Right. 2000i. So, but they're coming out with releases every half year now. So I was just going through the, hey, what's new in Civil 3D 2023? And I would say 75% of the what's new features were released in the update for 2022.
Yeah.
So if I don't even know why they're doing yearly releases anymore. Well, why? I think what they should do, and this is my personal opinion, and so they're obviously going to adopt this for the next release cycle, is they should have the core release, call it, give it a number, right? So we're still on the 2018 drawing format. So we should still be on the 2018 version of Civil 3D, but we would just have updates. So we would be like, say, for example, on update 8 of 2018. And that way I could keep all of my reference files in the same location for years. And then when we update to the next version and we get a new drawing format, then perhaps give it a new release date name. And that way I don't have to constantly update all my search paths and everything to the new locations and all that fun stuff. But
I will tell
that's
you
my personal opinion.
I will tell you why they don't do that, because Revit, it's a new version every single year.
Well, yeah, so, sure. For Revit, that makes sense then.
Right, but they're trying to keep all of them on the same nomenclature, right?
I don't care.
23. It's, even though you look at recap, they call it 23, but it's not actually a 23. It's like you just said, it's just a new point version upgrade.
Yeah.
So
I think it would make a lot more sense if they would just went with these, updates for several years until you get a major change to the drawing format, and then give it a new release number. But that's, again, my personal opinion.
But then Revit won't match Civil 3D, and that won't match Inventor, etc.
I don't care. If you want to be able to be compatible with Revit 2023, then you need to use Civil 3D 2018 update 72. I don't care.
Yeah, but in our Revit workflow, so they were on point. That's exactly how they did it before. But it was hilarious because Revit 8 was compatible with Revit Architecture 8 was compatible with Revit Structure 1. And Revit Architecture 8.1 was compatible with Revit Structure 2. And then Revit Architecture 9 was compatible with Revit Structure 3 and Revit Systems 1. It was very confusing. So that's when they're like, screw it, we're switching everything to a yearly release and calling it a day.
I guess I could see that for Revit.
So I'm just throwing it out there. I have no idea.
Yeah, so Adam says that, InfraWorks doesn't show a product number. It's just InfraWorks.
Yeah, Format is the same way, and Recap actually does, but Recap is just Recap. It makes me laugh. They say they call it Recap 2023 or whatever, and you go into the download and it's Recap, 2.67. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then Ian said, who cares? Civil 3D and Revit are just incompatible, full stop.
Yeah. There's a smidge of compatibility between them. Just a smidge.
Yeah, and Simon's like, of course, it's a cash cow. Then you got to pay yearly to get them, and it sounds like you're getting something for the money you're paying.
Right.
Okay, so Naughty Mouse actually asked a question.
Okay.
Do you have a recommended workflow for getting a USGS point cloud into Civil 3D InfraWorks? I've seen others go through a recap, and that process was a bit lengthy. Regarding the point cloud, I was referring to making a 3D surface.
So it depends upon the point cloud data that you have. So if it's just XYZ data, you can add that as a point file to a surface. So let me go create a surface here. All right, just whatever I want to call it. And then if I come in here to definition, there is an option for a point file. So you can add that point file. You would just need to make sure that you have a point file format that matches the data of your point cloud. And then those points will just simply be added to the surface. Now there's no weeding or anything like that that's going to go on. There is some minimal weird weeding that you can do within a point file format. So if I go create a new point file format here, we'll use a user point file. You can say, hey, read no sample every 5th point, right? So that'll weed out, 70, 80% of your points, but every 5th point would be read. And so what you'll end up with is, especially if it's like a grid, you'll get, a 5-point spacing horizontally, but vertically, there'll still be every point because it's reading every 5th one, not making a grid, it's every 5th in the list of points. So you can do some weighting there. I haven't had a whole lot of success or even ever want to do that, but it's an option. So you could simply add the file directly to the surface. If you want to bring it in as a point cloud, then it has to go through Recap first. So I don't know of any Autodesk software that can use a point cloud that's not a Recap point cloud. Navisworks might be able to, but I'm not sure on that. So, but yeah, and then within Civil 3D, there's the option to create a surface from a point cloud, and within InfraWorks that you can do the terrain from a point cloud there. I've had better, they do it differently. So you can do either, what I would do is I would do them both ways and compare the results. InfraWorks has the ability to try to auto classify the ground points for you. So it'll try to pull out just the ground points. Civil 3D doesn't, but it has some weeding methods to try to do that. So it does it differently. So I would recommend trying both of them and seeing what you like better. And if neither one of those give you a satisfactory result, then take the point cloud back into Recap and try to manually trim out the points that are causing you issues. So.
Is there any way that you know to convert a point cloud into just an XYZ file? Like a points file? I mean, right? Theoretically, a point cloud has XYZ definition for every single one of the points. You would think it would be a very, very, very long.
But the point cloud will also have other data associated with it as well. So it'll also have the, it depends upon the data. It could have a color. It could have brightness, I think is what it is. So how reflective is the return? It can have a classification on it. So it can have extra data. It's not just X, Y, and Z. I don't know of a way to export a Recap file just to XYZ. It might be something within Recap.
Yeah, I was just curious if you'd known, because you're talking about bringing in a points file, and if we could say, hey, I just want the XYZ data out of this, point cloud. Every point has it, agreed. They have additional information to those points like color, et cetera, But yeah, I don't know. I was just curious.
I think Recap has an export ability, but I'm not sure what file formats are available for that.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I was literally just looking at this with somebody because there's like a save as, and then there's also an export.
Okay. So Pekka
of course, I can't remember the
chat that InfraWorks supports LAS and LAZ files as well.
Yeah, and I feel like this is just a must-have tool because I swear every civil chat somebody comes up saying, yeah, we use Global Mapper for that. So Charlie says, yeah, Global Mapper, maybe it's Charlie every week, and maybe he is a salesperson for Global Mapper. I have no idea.
Charlie works in our Denver office.
Okay. So Global Mapper comes up as saying, hey, we can use Global Mapper to generate the contours and then create that surface from those. And Global Mapper will convert an LAS to XYZ. Yeah. And as Brian said, Pekka, I'm probably totally slaughtering your name. I apologize. InfraWorks supports LAs and LAZ files.
Yeah. So looks like recap can export as a PTS file. So my guess is that's just an ASCII file with the data, but I can't say for certain on that. I've never used a .pts file.
Can you bring PTS into Civil 3D?
If it's just an ASCII file, you can just, if it's basically, if it's a CSV file, comma separated values, you can put whatever extension you want on it. It's still just a text file.
Right.
So you might just be able to rename that to a .csv and then open it up in Excel, get rid of the columns you don't want, and then save it with just the X, Y, and Z values. But again, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the PTS file format. But that's the approach I would try.
Desiree said there was also a chance at save as. There's export and save as. Does save as possibly have different options?
I think the save as is just RCSs, RCP, one or the other. And I'm going to backtrack just a little bit that Brian actually posted, and this is a very good point, talking about without the year, like you were saying, you get the whole Bentley crap. So you're in Bentley version 8i, but it's release SS 10.08.11.09.912. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's a good point too. But I mean, it's just, hey, it's Civil 3D 2018, update 5, update 6, update 7.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Then
when you go to the new drawing format, then update the thing. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with something cool, but apparently it's failing miserably.
No, I just always laugh. I think software developers get too into the nitty gritty of naming. Well, this isn't a full point release, so it's going to be a point release. Right. So it's 11.1.1, 11.1.2, because we only fixed one little bit of the code. The rest of it's, it's just like, oh my God, no one cares but you guys.
Right.
Get your secret crackerjack decoder ring internally and just say this equals that, and you're done internally.
Yeah, and that's what the about is for. It's for those hot fixes and those little things. Sure, that's when you would see all that long stuff. But as far as, hey, I'm using Civil 3D. Well, what version? 2018.6.
Yeah.
It's still 2018. We're still in Civil 3D 2018. It's the 2018 drawing format. Anyways, I digress.
So Sheldon asked the question, is there a way to copy layer settings, etc., to the rest of the tabs, model profile section without doing it one by one for every style you have?
Oh, you're talking about like object styles. Gotcha. So if I come over here to settings, surface styles, if I come over here to, say, for example, this border only, on the display tab, I've got these layer settings here, and you want to be able to copy these from there to there. Does that sound right, Sheldon? Quick yes or no, if you're still with us. Yes. Okay. There is not a way that I know of to do that. I really wish there were, because it would make life so much easier. And I think one of the reasons is because if you look at the section tab here, there's only one option here. Right? If I go to the model, right, and the plan, in this case, the model and the plan have the same options, but the section only has one option. And I think it's because of this disparity in the data that's available as to why there's not an option to do that. I don't know of a way to go through and do that automatically. There might be some third-party applications that can do it. If this is for style creation, what I would do is I would set one up the way I want it, and then when it's time to create another one that's similar, I would just copy the style, and so all those layers would be set up that way, assuming you want them to be the same. But no, there's no way that I know of to do that, unfortunately.
This is where I'll be a Charlie and say, I bet Dynamo could. I'm just joking. I have no idea.
It might be able to. I don't know if Dynamo can break into the styles or not. I would assume that it can. But you would have to set Dynamo up to be able to change all those things, which would probably take about as long as just changing them yourself.
But isn't that what Dynamo is for? to take a process you could do in a short amount of time and take 10 times longer just to say.
No. The actual script itself runs really, really quick.
Exactly.
It just takes you forever to create the script, and you could have been done a long time ago if you hadn't stopped to create the script. But scripting is cool, right?
And Adam says you don't really have access to styles yet with Dynamo.
Okay. I didn't think it did, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, Sheldon, so you mentioned in the Q&A that you can't purge those layers. So if you've got a layer in a style, that layer is being used by the drawing and is therefore unpurgeable, unable to be purged. I like unpurgeable better. All right. So yeah, that's definitely one of the drawbacks here is if a layer is being used, then it can't be purged. And a style specifying a layer, that layer is being used. So I totally get why you'd want to do that. I just don't know of a way to do that, unfortunately. I don't know how to copy them from one style to another style either. So if I've got if I got my model set up just the way I want it for this style and I want to apply it to all my other styles, but I don't want to change the plan layers of those styles, I don't know of a way to do that either. That would be really cool. That's something you should post up on the idea station for something like that. But again, I don't know how Autodesk would implement something like that. So.
And you've got Adam saying you can use layer delete to just remove those layers. So if you delete a layer, what happens to the style? Does it just go to 0?
No, it's gone. So if you notice that this one is using the C-10, right? So if I draw a line, put it on C-10, QRSTUV, C-10, and then I lay delete, I'm going to delete that layer. Yes, I want to continue. And if I go in here now, there's just no layer there. This is bad. I can't imagine this would be a good thing. I think an audit will fix that, but I'm not positive.
And Joel says,
yeah. So you can
manager.
see it picked up on the down there the surface layer was erased.
And Joel says layer manager is better than layer delete. And Justin said there's a Camber add-in for Dynamo that has a lot of nodes to help deal with styles. And those are all in the chat.
Nice.
All right. So got another question that popped up and Desiree's on. So if you don't know this one, I'm pretty sure I know she's dealt with this one. So what do you think of Autodesk's token? Is it worth it for temporary or is it not worth the asking price?
I love the idea. The idea behind the tokens is, hey, we're going to have this much usage of our software. And if we go above and beyond that, then we don't have to spend a whole lot of money to get a whole nother license. We can get just a little bit more. Sure, it's a little bit more expensive if you were to do it for the whole time, but just to cover this over usage, we can do it. So I like the idea. As far as, is it worth it cost wise? I don't know. I haven't really looked into the cost of it. I don't know if Desiree is willing to talk about this. What do you think, Desiree?
Sure. Yeah. Depending on which products you're using, I found that our break-even place is about 2 days a week. So if you're somebody that opens it 2 days a week or less, it's cost-wise makes sense. If you're somebody that uses one software only, it's probably more likely to be a good deal. If you use more than one pieces of software, probably not a good deal no matter what. But the other thing that was sort of a harsh lessons learned is I found out that Civil 3D is different. You pay tokens for Civil 3D, then you pay tokens for all the other little bits and pieces. Like vehicle tracking is more tokens.
Oh yeah, because it's you don't get the tokens for the collection.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's tokens per software. So I really like it for what we're using it for, which is the really, really light users that open something here or there. And then also the thing that I like it for is the team that we have switched over to tokens is a team that does almost exclusively Civil 3D. It's very, very rare for them to be in anything else. So the people that are in it more than a couple of days a week, we knocked them down from collections to Civil 3D only, and then opened up tokens for all the other software. So on occasion, if they open up something else, they'll use a token, and we were able to save some money by going down to Civil 3D only versus collection. So I like it for how we've finagled it, but it did take me a few months to figure it out, and we did burn through some tokens real fast.
So I have a question on the tokens, Desiree. So if somebody, let's say, for example, is just a sole person that's, off on their own, and they use Civil 3D a couple times a month, can they get the tokens, or do you need to have a license before you can get the tokens?
I think they can get the tokens, but that's
Okay.
a good question. Yeah, I think they can.
Well, you used to be able to lease all the software on a monthly basis. Is that done now? You used to be able to go on and get like, hey, I'm going to do the collection or Revit or Civil 3D, and I'm going to do it on a monthly basis. And you could literally pay month to month to do it. Is that gone?
I'm not sure if it is or not. I've never been interested in it, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't be on my radar, but I don't know why it would be gone.
I think a great place where the tokens might come into play is, in the pressure networks in Civil 3D and even the pipe networks. I don't know if people are still doing this or not, but there was the whole part builder replacement thing. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it used you would build the parts in Inventor, and then you'd use those to bring those into Civil 3D. Well, Inventor is not part of the collection. So I have a license for the collection, but I need to go buy Inventor to be able to do this little bit of stuff. And I'm only going to use it for like a couple of weeks total. So I think the tokens might come into place really handy there in a situation like that.
And Brian and Ian said that was called the infrastructure parts editor.
That's it. Thank you.
Yes, I don't know. You used to be able to lease it because I had several of my clients who were doing that. They would be like, hey, I work on Revit for 2 months of the year, and then I might open it up here and there because they're design build, or they design a house, whatever. So they were just doing that for a while, or they bring the interns in for the summer, and they're like, cool, we're going to just buy a license of Revit for 3 months for the 3 interns we have.
Right. And Justin, I just noticed in the chat that Justin asked a question in the chat that should have been in the Q&A, but I'm going to let that slide for now. It says, with Autodesk purchasing Innovyze, will their software eventually phase out the HydraFlow extensions? I guess my question is anybody using the HydraFlow extensions?
I'm assuming Justin is, since he actually asked the question.
The HydraFlow stuff, in my opinion, is... So let's talk a little bit about the history of the HydraFlow stuff. So
wait. You stopped and were way too politically correct for that. Is that because we're recording these now?
So a HydraFlow, so Hasted Methods was the big player in the H&H world back when I was doing design. And I think, and I don't know for certain, but I think Autodesk was going to try to buy Hasted Methods, but Bentley ended up buying them instead. And they realized that, hey, Bentley now has this great H&H software. Let's get into here. And they went out and bought the HydraFlow stuff. And the HydraFlow stuff was good, but once they bought it, they're like, okay, great, we got H&H stuff. And they did nothing with it. The guy who created the HydraFlow stuff, I believe his name is Chris Mader, if I remember correctly. He actually went on and developed new software that is very, very similar to the HydraFlow stuff, and it is so much better. And I don't think Autodesk is really doing anything with the HydraFlow or the storm and sanitary analysis stuff. I think with the Innovyze purchase, that they're keeping that kind of as Innovyze, and it's going to be an option for people to purchase if they wanted. And again, this is just me guessing. I don't know. I really don't know. This is just my speculation. They're gonna, because they spent what, like $1 billion on this thing, that they're gonna try to sell the Innovyze software to their users as an add-on to Civil 3D or just as a standalone thing. But I honestly don't know. But that, like I said, that's my guess.
Well, Adam says he uses it, but only because it's the poor man's tool.
Yeah, it's there. It works. Is it great? No, but it's there.
And so Corey asked the question, and what do you guys use in place of HydraFlow?
What do we use?
Or anybody in the chat?
Yeah, I don't know what our engineers use. I know that we use a lot of HydraFlow, but as far as the H&H stuff goes, I don't know what folks are using here. Yeah, Charlie says heck HMS and HydraFlow. So Ian's using the Innovyze micro drainage. I mean, I really liked the storm and sanitary analysis stuff. I love the concept of it. But again, getting global mapper. But again, Autodesk bought it and did nothing with it. And it was just like, why?
I found over the years working enough with Autodesk and talking to the people, a lot of times they buy software in thoughts of how they can integrate it into their own software later, whether that happens or not, but that's the original plan.
Yeah.
And I know Simon brought up when they bought out SiteWorks or whatever it was called for Revit, but even before that, when they bought out, Ecotech. They bought out Ecotech, never did anything with it, but they did take some of the base programming and start slowly adding that into Forma, adding that into some of the Revit tools, adding that into some of the analysis tools that are online now. So sometimes they do buy that stuff going, we know there's great potential here. It might not be the best, but we can build off of that potential
They
to
build
make
it for the baseline technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate because, Ecotech was probably bought over a decade ago and they still tools in there that they just shit canned and never did anything with, and other parts they brought up. And probably by this point in time, they rewrote all the code anyway, but maybe it was a starting point for them to reverse engineer some of the code or come up with ideas. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. What else we got?
So Justin just had what is Sid's question? So now that you've gone to 2023, are you going to use your current template or create an entirely new one using the 2023 DWT file?
I'm probably going to stick with the same template. Because there's not a change in the drawing format. And as far as I know, there's no new label style settings, object style settings, or anything like that. No new drawing or Civil 3D, the feature settings or anything like that. I'm probably going to stick with our current template. If we were going to switch to a new drawing format, I'd probably update it then. But I don't see any reason not to continue to use the one we have. I obviously will test it, make sure it still works. And if it doesn't work, then I'll recreate it. But yeah, that's my plan at least.
Yeah, and Ian said there's only a few new tools and the pressure networks. So, yeah. And again, like you said, most of that was in 2022.1 or whatever you guys call your.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the AutoCAD has some really cool new features, but Civil 3D 2023, if you go from 2022 to 2023, there's some really good features. But like I said, most of those were available in the 2022.1.
Yeah. So. And then Anonymous asks, what's best practices are recommended for network locations for configurable folders in support content, such as OneDrive, Dropbox, BIM 360, or other?
I've never used any of those other things. So the way we do things here at GEI is we keep everything local. So if I open up File Explorer here, zip you over here. So we have C CAD support. And this is where we keep everything. Right. So all of our CAD systems don't look at the network at all, except maybe some shortcuts to find project files, right? And everything is stored local. And the way we have this set up is when we launch CAD, it runs a routine that synchronizes our local files with the files that are up on the network. So if I were to come in here and say, for example, delete the Civil 3D 2022 folder completely off of my system, when I launch CAD the next time, it's going to copy that back down from the network and put it back here for me. So it always makes sure that these files are the same as what I have up on the network. And that's the way we do it. We don't use OneBox or OneDrive or Docs or BIM 360 or Dropbox or any of that crap. We just have basically a batch file that robocopies it. And then once it's done robocopying, it then launches the program.
Now, do you run into issues with that if somebody's like in a plane and they launch Civil 3D, it just says I can't access the network, use the existing?
Yeah. Yeah. So if it can't find the network, it just then launches the program.
Cool. Yeah, I know back in my good old days of AutoCAD, that's exactly what we did. Just, hey, run everything off and copy it and run it all off the local machine.
Yeah. And so if, and we do things, we used to do it with a batch routine. We don't use a batch routine anymore. We had a custom routine written for us by a reseller. Right. But if I come in here to this folder, here's this GEI Civil 3D 2022. If I go into the properties of this shortcut. So this is what we train all of our users to use. You can see what this does is this runs this little external program, which basically does the, hey, let me synchronize. And then once I'm done synchronizing, run the program. For 2016, we actually used batch routines, BAT files. So if I come in here into the properties of this, you can see we have it run this start.bat. And the start.bat does that for us. It synchronizes, and then once it's done synchronizing, it launches the program. Steven Sluka, S-L-U-K-A, did an Autodesk University class, I believe it was in 2018, called CAD Customizations, Keep Working Locally in a Global Environment. I don't know, some stupid AU class name, right? But basically he talks about how to set that up. So I would recommend checking that out. Again, his name is Sluka, S-L-U-K-A. Just do a search for it. I can do that here real quick.
And Corey asked, if you deleted the entire folder, how long of time frame would it be to recreate it?
It depends upon your download speeds.
Yeah, I was
and how
say,
big the file is. It just copies it down.
Their network drives are horrible, so I can't believe they don't all pull their hair out or shoot themselves in the head with as slow as their network copies are. Personally, I would, but hey.
University. I know, I misspelled. I don't care. So if I do just a search here for Sluka, I believe that's how he pronounces his name. Yeah, keep your CAD customizations local rather than making a global mistake. So back in 2018.
Cool. And Jackie has a question. Where can I find free templates for section views in metric units?
Download the UK, Ireland country kit. That's where I would go first, or maybe the Australian country kit, because both of those country kits have templates that are built specifically for those countries. And as far as I know, they don't use imperial units there, which is weird. I don't understand why they don't, because the imperial system is so much easier.
I love your sarcasm.
Thank you.
Adam also said Civil 3D on steroids was a good AU topic that also covered the local customization as well.
Nice.
Okay, I'm gonna try to get this question from Justin, which is actually in the chat pod. I'm working on a large storm sewer project and have to provide multiple storm event results in the profile views, and was thinking on using property sets, data sets, Excel to populate results for each piping using pipe labels. Can you cover a Dynamo workflow?
No.
And then below that,
I'm sorry. It sounds really cool, but I wouldn't know how to do that. So you can add property set data to your pipes, but I wouldn't know how to automate that. And then once you get that in there, you can then use labels to display that property set information. The part that I wouldn't know how to do is how do I get that data into the property sets? You have to have some sort of an Excel file that has that information. And then, like you said, use Dynamo to link that Excel file to the pipes. Maybe Adam knows this one. Can Dynamo access the property set data? Adam
Yes.
says yes, it can. So yeah, that would be the way to do it. I just wouldn't know how to do it, so it's not something I could demo for you or talk about, unfortunately. That's
And I believe, I don't remember who the civil engineer is I'm working with on the project, but they are basically doing that, but they have an add-on utility, I believe, that does it, because the airport is requiring, a BIM model from civil as well, where they need all of that stuff linked into an Excel spreadsheet and then put that information back into the .dwg, because they can only bring the Excel spreadsheet into their GIS to extract that data. So yeah, and somebody says Autodesk MDM does that.
now the question is what is MDM?
That's just what I was going to say. I thought you all would know.
Ian, what is MDM? Model Development Manager. There you go.
I don't even know what Model Development Manager is, so I'm
not familiar with it either. So, all right, it looks like we're out of questions. I got a few minutes left. So what I want to do here real quick is go over what I'm most excited about with AutoCAD 2023. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this site and let me go ahead and print it real quick. And I'm just going to print this to a PDF. I'll just save this on my desktop. I'll overwrite the one that's already there. And then once it's done printing, I'm going to go ahead and open it up. I'm going to mark up this PDF. I'm going to use Bluebeam, but you could mark it up however you like. And my understanding is you can even print this out, mark it up with a pen, and then scan it back in.
Man, I was going to say so I can mark it up with crayons, but you actually said that's legit. Dang it, I was trying to be a smartass and you pre-covered it.
I think you can. I haven't tried it, but my understanding is you would still be able to do that. Man, this is taking forever to plot. Come on. I got people waiting on us here.
Markups with Crayola. That's right.
I wonder if this has crashed on me. Anyway, so the Autodesk mobile, the AutoCAD mobile app had this ability to add what's known as a trace. And what we can do now is we can import a trace that is a PDF, and it'll identify what's a markup and what's the original. And then you can actually convert that into AutoCAD objects, which is just really cool. All right, so we're done plotting there. Let me go ahead and open up this bad boy. Come on. Did I click it right? View plotted file. Of course, this takes forever because I've got people waiting on me.
Always.
Yeah,
Also,
of course, I'm probably going to have like 3 instances of review open now.
And you can never find the button when somebody's looking over your shoulder, even though you click that button 500 times throughout a day.
Right? You can't remember the name infrastructure parts editor. Yeah, see, I've got. Oh, if you ever open up a review and you get this document contains untitled viewports, say yes. Get rid of those stupid things. All right. Yeah, how many of these do I have open now? Let's go ahead and close that one. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to throw some markups in here. I don't know. I'll just throw a rectangle in here. I don't know why. I'm just going to throw one right there. I'll throw in a call out here. You know, talking about this storm. Oh, come on. Why is this going so slow? Let's try that again. I'll throw in a call out here. That's just a leader here. Say something about this manhole, yada, yada, yada. All right. I'll scribble something in here using a pen. All right. So we'll just throw something in here. Whee! Right. And then I'll close this PDF and I'll save it. All right. Now back in AutoCAD 2022, you can go into your trace. So on the Collaborate tab on the ribbon, you can open up your traces palette. And so I'm in the Civil 3D workspace. So they've actually added this to the Civil 3D workspace, which is fantastic because Autodesk is known for not including the AutoCAD updates in the Civil 3D interfaces sometimes. All right, so here I'm in my traces. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new trace. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not what I wanted. Let's go ahead and close out of that. I'll delete that. I think it's this one here. I want to import markup into a trace. Maybe I have to have a trace. I don't know. I'm gonna go find that PDF. So that was the quantity 7 model. That's the one I just created. And it's going to bring it in and it's going to look at the PDF, look at the drawing and line it up for me. And there it is, lined up perfectly for me. So I'm going to accept that placement. You can always move, align, rotate, all that fun stuff if it didn't come in right. But you can see I now have these markups in my document.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, right. And then if I come up here to this is the edit trace. I click on the edit trace button right here. I can then do the markup assist, which I think is already on. No, I just turned it off. So I turn it on and you notice my markups now have these blue outlines around them, right? So you can see that the lining up wasn't perfect, but in my opinion, it didn't really need to be, right? But, you know, so for example, this markup here, if I click on that blue line, it gives me some options. I can insert this as a rev cloud and I'll put a rev cloud in the drawing for me. I can come over here to this call out. And I can either do it as an M leader, as M text, or copy the text to a clipboard. So I'm going to do it as a multi-leader. It's going to ask, hey, where do you want the leader to go? I want the leader to go from there, and I want it to go to there. Now, obviously, this is like really small, but it brings that information in. And if I have this one, apparently doesn't have a trace on it. Doesn't let me do it. But I think this is really cool. I think this has a ton of potential for people that are comment or, you know, getting digital markups from folks. You can just import that as a trace and it's right there in your face, ready to go. There are some options. So if I come in here, the options, so you can change the background transparency. What I would like is the ability to say, yes, I'm done with this one. And yes, I'm done with this one. And yes, I'm done with that one. But I don't know of a way to do that. There might be, but I'm not sure of it. So
this is reminding me of the DWF markups that they tried for a while, where you could publish the DWF, mark it up, and then overlay it in all the software.
Yeah, which was absolutely fantastic, except for the whole DWF file format just never took off.
Yeah.
I love that option with the DWFs and the design review.
Yeah.
But you have to use design review to mark it up, and you have to use design review to view it. And people are like, just send me a PDF. So,
yeah, exactly. Or they take the DWF and print it to PDF and mark it up on there.
Right. And so once I'm done here, I just say, hey, I'm done with this trace. And now I have my revision cloud here and my multi-leader here. It's really small. It's probably because of my current style in this drawing. And
you know what's hilarious about DWF when they were first trying it? It was it just used OpenGL, or excuse me, the WebGL inside of your video card to create PDFs. So you could actually go in and create a 3D PDF of any computer game you were playing, or DWF, excuse me.
Really?
So when they were in the beta, yeah, I was in some of my online games and I would do the print screen button, which I had set to do a DWF, and I literally would have a 3D map. I was playing one game and there was a guy just sniping everybody. We had no idea where he was. So I did that button, went into the DWF viewer and said, oh, he's right here, and took him out.
Oh, wow. No, I didn't know that. That's cool. I wonder if
yeah, it was very cool. Because originally when they first came out, the DWF, it was just a print screen button. You would hit print screen to do the DWF.
Right.
And it just used your graphics card. And while I was ever going through the graphics card, it would print that. So it was really cool. You could do it in 3D games. All right, and Adam did say one thing before we close out. For property set data, there's a new beta tool. If you're not on it, go join, called the Standardized Data Set Tool for pushing and pulling property set data to mass file objects. So something they're in beta testing that will hopefully
go check it out.
So go check it out. And with that,
they're pretty liberal on who they let into the betas. So if you're like, they don't want me, they want you. Just make sure that you follow along with the NDAs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Revit this year, a whole bunch of people posted blogs before 2023 came out, and they removed all of them from the beta. I think they removed like 6 people from the beta this year.
Yeah.
And with that, we're at the bottom of the hour.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Come back again next month. Tell your friends. The only way people know about this is word of mouth and me on Twitter. So, or LinkedIn. So yeah, make sure you tell people. The more questions we have, the better this goes. So hopefully we'll see you all again next month. Take care.
And remember, this is being recorded, so check it out or pass it along to everybody from Brian's YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
Thanks.